So in this video, guys, we're going through a quick example of a verbal reasoning style question relating to these hypothetical and qualifier style questions. So if we have a look through this text, it's all about cardiorespiratory failure and kind of how death is being redefined from cardiorespiratory failure to failure or destruction of the brain. So a shift in a definition of this concept of death, okay? So we'll have a look at the first question. Based on the information contained within the text, which of the following is most likely to be true? So here we've got one of those qualifying terms. So what we're thinking about here is this phrase, most likely. So you need to be thinking, if you're kind of having another skim back over the initial passage, which of these fits in best with kind of what the author has described, and how does this scale of most likely fit into it? So is it that cardiorespiratory failure is an effective method of diagnosing death? Is it that the Pope had given a speech regarding death? Is it that destruction of the brain can be viewed as death? Or organ transplantation has only existed for a few years? If we go back and have a look at the text, we've seen that until the 1960s, cardiorespiratory failure was the only way to die. But then around 1967, this guy Beecher decided, hey, we need to come up with some new definition of what death is. And so after this, this report 6 months later, what they found is that it should be defined as irreversible destruction of the brain. Okay, so this is sort of the conclusion that's come to in the text, that we're going to move away from this definition of death as cardiorespiratory failure and redefine it as the irreversible destruction of the brain. Now, the Pope is mentioned. It says that the only citation was from him, but we don't really, to conclude that it was about death is a bit of a jump. We don't have really enough information to conclude that. So the idea here about cardiorespiratory failure is that it was an ineffective method because they had all these patients who were being ventilated, who were on kind of, heart-lung machines and were living but not really alive. So the whole point of the passage is that this was ineffective. And this idea that organ transplantation has only existed for a few years is incorrect. We learned that in the previous 5 years, so we're talking about like 1962 or something, so quite a long time really. So the correct answer here is destruction of the brain, and it's all because of this whole idea of most likely is referring to what is the kind of closest to the conclusion that is drawn in the text.